Yeah, it's live. Can begin.
Sujata, please start.
Okay. All right. I hope everyone can hear me well.
Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So good morning, everyone, and everyone logging from India. Good evening to all of you. Thank you for logging in. Today, we have a very interesting topic. So today's topic is a Buddhist response to climate emergency, and we have a very lovely guest speaker with us, Mr. Kaustubh Savatkar, who is going to talk to us about the climate emergency that we are facing today, and from a Buddhist standpoint, what could be the potential solutions, or what could be the way of, offering a different perspective from a Buddhism standpoint. So we have a very interesting discussion in this session. To start with, I would just, like to just go through quickly about what my understanding is about Buddhism. Quickly start with right from the start. Buddhism was founded in northeastern part of India about like 25 years ago by Siddhartha Gautama, who is also known as Lord Buddha or the Enlightened One. He gave us 4 noble truths of life, which are the truth of suffering. Life is full of suffering. There are causes for the suffering, which is attachment. Then there is a cure for those sufferings. And finally, the Eightfold Path. The Eightfold Path starts with your right understanding or right view, then the right resolve or right thought, right speech, right conduct or action, right livelihood, right efforts, right mindfulness, and finally, right concentration or right samadhi. So according to Buddha, this path will ultimately lead to true happiness and freedom from all sufferings and emancipation from the cycle of being born, getting old, getting sick, and then eventually dying. This cycle is illustrative of a core Buddhist belief that everything is impermanent. It will keep changing. Change is the only constant thing, and everything, all the life, everything in the nature is interrelated. Another important aspect I would like to bring here is that we should cultivate 4 sublime attitudes referred to as Brahma Viharas, which include your loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity. It is generally accepted that through these teachings, the Lord Buddha provides a system of analytical thinking, critical reflection, reasoned attentions, and thinking by the way of causal relations or by way of problem solving, which helps guide people towards living a balanced and harmonious life with one another and with the nature, of course. Little bit about climate change, as our guest speaker will be, going into detail, but we have been hearing a lot about climate change everywhere. So many activists are fighting for it. We know well-known people, going after it, trying to make that change. So climate change is one of the, from WHO standpoint, it is one of the, the existential crisis that a human civilization is facing. So we are going to talk more about it, but we are going to look at a perspective from Buddhist side, how the climate change looks, how we can, what can we do to mitigate it, or kind of give our contribution to not making it worse, but kind of helping it to spread more awareness, which eventually will lead to kind of, having those activities or those things in place that can, future down the line, 50 years, 100 years from now, can have an effect that will reduce this drastic change that we are going to have in future. So with that thought, I would like to introduce our guest speaker, Kaustubh Savatkar. He's a senior sustainability consultant. Kaustubh Savatkar is a chemical engineer and holds an MBA with specialization in energy and environment. He has experience in a consultancy and advisory role with one of the largest professional firms in India and Belgium. His experience involves advisory services for various industries such as steel, cement, energy, and utilities, climate change consulting, government advisory, education and skill development, and so on and so forth. His expertise lies in providing advisory and assurance services in the areas of energy efficiency, climate change, non-financial disclosures, due diligence, clean environment mechanism, stakeholder consultations, corporate sustainability reporting and strategy. He has been a key member in the implementation of statewide scheme of Galmukt Dharan, Galyukt Shivar Yojana for government of Maharashtra. He has a notable contribution in the proposed amendments to the Maharashtra Protection and Preservation of Trees Act of 1975 to introduce provisions for the protection of heritage trees. He is one of the core team members of Jivit Nadi, a Living River Foundation in Pune, working for revival of rivers from anthropocentric pressures by community engagement. He comes from a Buddhist family and a strong believer of Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar's dream of social change by applying Buddhist values. Sir, a very warm welcome to you from all of the Boston Study Group. And we are really looking forward to hear your thoughts and views of this very intriguing topic of coping with the climate change from a Buddhist standpoint. So welcome you.
Thank you. I just want to make sure that I'm audible to everyone. So can you just give me a thumbs up or something like that, so that I know that I'm audible and everyone here can be here fully present.
So we can
Yes.
hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. So I am really privileged to be here. I'm very grateful for this opportunity by Boston Study Group. And I feel really honored to be part of Ambedkar Lecture Series. Of course, Sujata has set the stage quite high, and I think I would do my level best to give the justice to this topic, and I think we should dive into the topic right away. Actually, I would like to start with understanding the science of the climate change. So everyone now and then says that, okay, climate is changing and we are having harsh summer or harsh winters. There is erratic rainfall, and you can see that in your daily life. So the whole debate of what climate change is and is it a real thing, we have to understand the science of climate change. So in a scientific terms, the climate is defined as the normal weather pattern of our earth for a long time. So of course you have these mobile phones and you get the weather apps on your phones, and you can check if it is raining or is it going to be a storm, or if it is sunny. In fact, people from Northern America and Europe are quite happy in this month because it's going to be sunny and pleasant weather for them. Otherwise, you also have a lot of worsened conditions over the period of time. And climate is an integral part of our Earth system, and it takes about hundreds and hundreds years to form a current pattern of the weather that we call as climate. And recently, this rate of change has been increasing. So, and that is what we call as climate change. So the change in the climate impacts our ecosystems and all the life forms on the earth and communities of people across the globe. And it also will affect our future. So to understand the beginning of everything, I would take you to a concept of what we call as Holocene to Anthropocene. So you can see on the screen there is a clock, and we all know that the age of the Earth is about 4.6 billion years. So imagine this clock when at the stroke of 12, the birth of Earth has taken place. So you can see at 0.1 second, the Earth crust has formed, and at about 9 minutes and 18 seconds, we say that there is inferred origin of life, but that is uncertain because we have no scientific proof that at 9 minute Earth the life was formed. And you go on with this clock, and you see at the 17th minute the first bacteria, like the actual form of life that was born on the planet Earth. And the first nucleus and the first cell was formed at the 40th minute. It would be very surprising for you to know that the first dinosaur was uh, was formed or was born at the 57th minute. So imagine this scale of time in this clock. And then there is an interesting period in Earth's history, that at the 59th minute of 59th second and zero point 0.9 millisecond, the modern man has been put on the Earth. So you can imagine how recent as a species we are on the planet Earth. And we have been here around 200,000 years, so less than 0.01% of Earth's lifetime. But in this short amount, we have made enormous impact on the Earth and its regulating systems. So the population of this only one species, which we call as Homo sapiens, has been greater than 7 billions at the moment. And to survive this bigger population, we are consuming all the natural resources at the highest rate than they are generated. So in this 200,000 years, we have altered the 50% of Earth's landscape, and we have changed our atmosphere. We have emitted enough CO2 in the atmosphere, which will remain about 10,000 years more. And that has a severe impact on our biodiversity. And the scientists have named this era as Anthropocene, like the age of humans. So it's very serious if we get into the understanding of climate change, like what is the impact of Homo sapiens or humans on this planet and on this Earth. And to understand this concept more, we have to understand that the tipping point of this Earth. So we have the Earth as a system. We have Greenland gas, Greenland ice. We have coral reefs, boreal forest, Amazon rainforest, permafrost, Atlantic circulation, and Antarctic ice. So all these bigger chunks that you see on the screen are some of the systems which regulate the Earth and its all the systems. So if we emit more CO2 or greenhouse gas into the atmosphere, it creates an albedo effect, and which I will be explaining in a bit. So the greenhouse gas or CO2 is responsible for trapping the heat or keeping the atmosphere warm, because we receive the sunlight, and that's how our Earth gets warmer. We have an ozone layer which filtrates the ultraviolet light, and that is why we are very safe on the Earth. And all these systems, for example, the ice sheets in Greenland or Antarctic ice, they have stored immense amount of carbon that was released during the formation of Earth that we just saw in the previous slide. Like 4.6 billion year ago, there was a huge eruption of these greenhouse gases and steam and lava and everything. And this whole carbon was stored into these systems, and we are continuously changing, or we are continuously having the impact on these systems. For example, we are cutting rainforests all over the places. Recently, you would have seen Amazon was on fire, and in Australia there were quite a few fires, in California, and then there is permafrost, which is a frozen ice since the ice ages, which has trapped a lot of carbon, which prevent from getting out and getting into the atmosphere and increasing the temperature of the earth. But because of our activities and our actions, the CO2 that we have released after the industrial revolution has made in significant amount of increase in the global temperature. So we have a average global temperature which we measure on a scale of tipping points. So there is a 1 degree tipping point, then 1.5, 2 degree, 3 degree, 4 degree, and 5 degree, and so on. So currently now we are at the point where we have tipped the earth at 1.2 degrees centigrade. And if we keep continuing emitting this gases and CO2 in the atmosphere, it will soon reach to 2 degrees centigrade rise in the average global temperature. So to see what kind of effects that it will have, I have a film by a short film by Philip K. And I think it's better to get a visual understanding of the impacts that we have caused. So just let's see this film for a while, and then we'll move on to the next the next topic in understanding the climate change.
I think the audio is not. It's not audible. The video is not audible.
Oh, audio is not audible?
No.
All right, so maybe I will just skip that and
So Kaustubh, in your Zoom setting, I think you have to select the option of audio also.
Right, audio is there, but it is very low.
No, when you go to the share screen option for the video, usually it gives the share the audio.
First, you have to stop sharing the screen. Then
yeah. I got, yes. Sorry. Yeah. So
collapse of our civilizations.
So let us begin from the start.
Yeah.
Is it audible now?
Yeah, it was. So let's start. Yeah, I think so.
Right now, we're facing a man-made disaster of global scale. Our greatest threat in thousands of years, climate change. If we don't take action, the collapse of our civilizations and the extinction of much of the natural world is on the horizon. The world's people have spoken. Their message is clear. Time is running out.
The amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere now is 50% higher than it was in 1900. And not only are we piling in more and more carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, but we are chopping down the forests of the earth at a great rate. And the forests themselves are the most efficient consumers of carbon dioxide that there are on Earth. We're going to destroy the ground because the soil of a rainforest isn't very good. We are actually tampering with the climate of the Earth and with the very atmosphere that we breathe. When we talk about the disappearance of the ozone layer, we don't know what will happen when the ozone layer goes. The world has become so fragile that we cannot subject the earth to the tortures we can now inflict upon it. When we talk about the greenhouse effect, we're talking about something that affects the entire earth. And these problems are life and death problems. They go to the root of the viability of the planet itself. If there's one thing that is biologically certain about the human species, is that it is a human species, one species.
If we don't stop the destruction of our natural world, nothing else will matter. Simply put, if we don't protect nature, we can't protect ourselves.
So, yeah, so of course, there are terrible visuals, and the film that we just saw is just a representation of the impacts that we have caused on our Earth and our planet and our systems. And if we see that the biggest impact is the biodiversity loss, and I have put some of the points here which I would like to talk about in detail, but I'm not really certain that how am I going to talk about these points after seeing these kind of visuals, and which for me personally takes a bit of time to gather myself. And we as a species, I mean, the greed that we have, the model of development that we have, the kind of aspiration we have for becoming more superior in terms of all those planetary species, has caused a tremendous amount of imbalance all over the places. Over 1 million species are at the risk of extinction. Over 50% of the mammal species have gone already extinct. We have food production and water security issues. There are great risk of pandemic diseases that we have seen in last couple of years with the COVID outbreak. And we have disrupted natural systems to such an extent that those are no longer at our benefits, and those are just giving us a lot of disadvantages. There are issues of water purity for drinking purpose, and there is a adulteration in our food, and every system that we once held for our benefits now collapsing. We have destructed all the natural habitats and changed the earth landscape. We have removed the mountain caps. We have dug up the rivers, the lakes, and our industrial agriculture is releasing is resulting into more harm to the planet than to give any kind of benefits. So this is the overall picture of our actions. But some people say that no, I mean, climate change is just a hoax. This is one of my favorite slides where you can say that there are two opposing poles and their views. And surprisingly, one view often comes through the US, that climate change is nothing but the hoax, and it's a propaganda run by a few companies or a few NGOs. And to counter that, we have an example of Greta Thunberg, who once said that, how dare you to not take any actions. So I just want to put this question on the floor, that how do you feel when you hear about the climate emergency? And once we did a kind of a survey with our stakeholders, and we were trying to understand what are their feelings about it. After understanding the impacts of the climate change, or the visuals that they see in their real life, the examples that they see in their real life, what feelings occur in them. And often we have seen the feelings are about anger, frustration, a lot of anxiety and fear. So it's fear of our future, fear of our children and grandchildren, and anxiety about whether we are going to make it, whether we are going to live peacefully on this planet of or planet Earth. So how does we address this crisis through the Dharma? So as we saw in the previous slide, that everyone is trying to put their view and raising their voice, but and then it makes us question everything, like what is the truth, what is the correct information. And we tend to have our biases towards the viewpoint, or the information that has been shared by certain people or certain institutions. But the Dharma encourages us to relate to the person rather than view. And I think that can be explained through the example of this particular incident in Buddha's life. And you can see that on the picture here, that the Kisa Gautami from Vaishali, she had a beautiful son, which unfortunately died. And she was going through every door in the village and asking them, how can I make my son alive again? And she was in a lot of pain, she was in the grief, and she actually lost her view. And someone from the village told her that, okay, now the Shakyamuni Gautama is in the village, you can just take your dead son towards him, and maybe he can do some miracle, and he can make him alive again. And she reached out to Buddha, and she just prayed to him that, please forgive me for my intrusion, and but I'm in a lot of pain, my son has just died. And all the story that Buddha has asked her to go to the village again and bring a handful of grains from a home where nobody has died. So from this story we can infer that Buddha did not see her view as a reality. In fact, Buddha empathized with her and understood and what she is going through, and just ask her uh, to reach out to what is the truth and what is the impermanence. So whenever we hear different views about climate change, and there is a debate, and people are saying, no, that's just a propaganda, are we have to ask this question, that are we relating to the person or relating to their view? And Dharma just gives us that guideline, that we have to empathize with the person, even if the person is saying, no, that's wrong, that is propaganda. That person could have his reasons to come to that conclusion, and we don't have to disconnect us from that person just because he has an opposing view, or he has a contradiction to our statements and our reality. So we have to empathize with the person. So in climate change space, a lot of people and a lot of activists are also thinking about meditating for the people who are in the contradiction or in the opposing views. And that is a great power that our Dharma brings to this discussion. And what Dharma also says is, you have to understand the science. And I was reading through some of the books from Oxford University, and the philosophy of science, which is taught in the Oxford. They have this sentence which I have put here, which says that science boils down to creating a hypothesis to investigate by assessing its explanatory force and predictive power. That is, you give more weight to the hypothesis that more accurately explains past and current events and predict the future. So if we go back to the clock again, and we can see that the science has a strong explanation about the past events and the current events that are happening, and it can predict the future for next 50 years to 100 years or 200 years or maybe 1000 years. And that's why the view based on the scientific facts brings us more closer to the reality or the truth of climate change. So the what are the visual signs of climate change? So climate change had made our atmosphere warmer, so we are having warmer temperatures. There is a great shift in the rainfall pattern. We see very erratic rainfalls. Sometimes there is heavy rains, and sometimes there is not enough rainfall. Then there are frequent and intense extreme events. So if I am correct, last few years we have been experiencing a lot of tornadoes or a lot of floods. Recently, in last year, there was a huge flooding in the Central Europe. Most often in California or in the Western America, there has been incidents of droughts. In India, of course, still today we are waiting for the monsoon to be in full force. So currently we are seeing all these visible signs of climate change, and that has led to a disruption of our ecosystems, which I have just talked about the biodiversity loss, about the pandemic diseases and acidic rainfalls. But the other disruption that it has caused is on our societal systems. What do I mean by societal systems? So we have agricultural systems which feeds everyone on this planet Earth, but we are having diminished food production because there are erratic rainfalls. Farmers are not able to cultivate their farms, and they have a very less gains at the end of the harvesting. It has also damaged the infrastructures. For example, if there is a flood, we have seen that kind of flood in Maharashtra last year, where Kolhapur and Konkan region was heavily devastated by the flooding last year. That brings us to the relocation of communities and climate migration. I was just reading a case study that happened in the district of Marathwada, specifically in Bid and Jalna, where all the farmers and their families are going towards Western Maharashtra for sugarcane cutting, and that is a result of this climate change, which has caused due to the irregular rainfall. So what does the impact of disruption of these systems is? So we have a direct impact on the vulnerable population. We have children, elder adults, disabled and sick, and pregnant women. They are affected greatly by this, because all the systems that supports this kind of a societal group or communities, that has been falling. You have a direct impact on indigenous communities, people of color and caste, and specifically in India, where the caste system is so prevalent, where the resources have been accumulated to only certain races and certain caste. The impact of societal disruption could be seen on a larger scale. So if you're seeing all this in our visuals, does it sound like an emergency? And yes, my answer is, for this question, is of course this sounds as an emergency, and we have to address that. But how does one address this, coming from a Buddhist background and coming from a understanding of how Buddha could have answered this question? So Buddha has said that use your own experience and testimony of the wise. And I'll get back to this the story which we are seeing right in front of us in the picture is there was a one highly educated Brahmin who came to Buddha, and he started accusing of him great nonsense that you are making a lot of young people go into monasteries, and the society is collapsing because of your dharma revolution. And how can you uh, be certain that your dharma is a way of happiness? So at that instance, Buddha has said that use your own experience and the testimony of wise people. And so b- the whole incident is demonstrated in Kalama Sutta, where Buddha has visited Kalams, which was a kind of a tribe in northern India at the time of Buddha. And they were really confused about the whole teachings of various teachers. Um, so uh, in a modern sense, that we can say they were affected by fake news of that era, because every teacher that used to come to their village and tell them, okay, my teachings are the superior, and whatever teachings your previous teacher had suggested are completely rubbish and completely false. So Kalams were becoming more and more doubtful, and there was certain uncertainty in their minds, and they reached out to Buddha and asked, what should we do in this case? So in Kalama Sutta, Buddha has given some do's and don'ts, which I have found, and I've translated that into English. So I'd like to share those with you. Uh, So the Buddha once made a visit to Kalams, a community faced with the modern dilemma. They told the Buddha that various teachers and sages come to their town to teach. They glorify their own teachings and disparaged, reviled, and showed contempt to other teachers' doctrines. So which of the teachers and sages were speaking the truth and which were lying? The Buddha began very wisely by empathizing with their dilemma. Of course, you are uncertain, Kalamas. Of course, you are in doubt. Where there are reasons for doubt, uncertainty arises. Then he advised the Kalamas not to take the following common sources of information as certain knowledge without further examination. And he has given some do's and don'ts for that. So he says, reports simply because the source seems reliable, you should not find that as a certain knowledge. Legends simply because they are held to be meaningful. Traditions simply because this is how we have always done things. Scriptures simply because it is taken as the word of God. Logical conjecture simply because it seems logical. Inference simply because it seems logical, but the premises could be inaccurate. Analogies, the analogy may itself be inaccurate. Agreement through pondering views. Just because you have taken your time to think things through, it doesn't mean that your conclusion are accurate. Probability, just because something seems probable, it doesn't mean that it's accurate. By the thought, this contemplative is our teacher, simply relying on the authority of your teacher. So when they asked him what they could rely on, he offered these two criteria to be taken in conjunction with each other. When you know for yourself that these qualities, when adopted and carried out, lead to welfare and to happiness, then you should enter and remain in them. In other words, any view or belief must be tested by the result it yields when put into practice over time. And when you know for yourself that these qualities are praised by the wise, in other words, to guard against the possibility of any bias or limitations in one's understanding, for those results, they must be further checked against the experience of people you regard as wise. So this is a very beauty of the Kalam Sutta, where Buddha has told how to form your own view about certain things. And if we take that in the context of climate change, the scientific community which is experimenting and which is yielding result based on the scientific hypothesis can be regarded as disclosure by the wise. And the experiences that we are having of the visuals or the climate change impact, that are the foundation of our views. And then let's come to the next point, where I would like to say a few things about touching the earth. You may all see on the screen that we have this very powerful image of Buddha, where he's just touching the ground. And there is a very beautiful story in Lalita Vistara, or the great noble great vehicle sutta, or the Mahayana Sutta. And the story goes like this, which I've again translated from the scriptures. As he's sitting there, Siddhartha comes to the attention of Mara, the somewhat pantomime devil of the Buddhist scriptures. Mara realizes that if Siddhartha become awakened, he will awaken billions of beings and empty Mara's realms. So he summons his sons and daughters and goes with a great army to defeat the Buddha to be. As well as trying brute force and seduction, he challenges Siddhartha's right to sit on the seat of enlightenment. Mara asks, "On what grounds could you ever attain liberation?" Siddhartha replies that he has performed trillions of unstinting acts of giving. He has even sacrificed his own body in order to liberate sentient being. Mara challenges him, declaring that he has no witness to his acts. Siddhartha replies, "The earth here is my witness." Without fear, he lets his right hand slide down and taps the earth. The earth shakes in 6 different ways, and the earth goddess, named Sthavara, breaks through the surface near Siddhartha. She bows down to him and bear witness to his altruism over many lifetimes. So Siddhartha claimed his right to sit on the seat of enlightenment with a gesture of groundedness of touching the earth. He calls the earth to witness his generosity over the countless lifetimes. And in the great Mahayana Sutta, Siddhartha has said that this earth supports all beings. She is impartial and unbiased towards all, whether moving or still. She is my witness that I speak no lies. So may she bear my witness. And I guess this is a exemplary gratitude that Buddha has shown towards the Mother Earth, or a planet, because although the battle between Mara and Siddhartha was of a mind, he brought witness, and the witness was earth, or the nature, which is significant importance in Buddhist tradition. And that is why, as a Buddhist, and as a response of Buddhists to the climate change, we have to understand the importance of earth, importance of nature, importance of our planet. And this importance of nature has always through Buddha's lifetime. You may all know that Buddha was born in a forest near Lumbini. You have heard this very famous tale of Devadatta and Siddhartha fighting over a swan, and the one who protects the swan is actually the owner of the swan. And this has the countless stories in Buddha's lifetime, like his enlightenment was under the Bodhi tree. Even his death was under the sal tree. So Buddha always had a connection with the earth, with the nature, and that can be seen in all the scriptures for Buddha. and his life stories. And so Buddha has given us some environmental ethics, and I would like to come to that ethics. So what do we mean by Buddhist environmental ethics? So in other words, Buddhism offer a path for developing to realize our potential as human beings. I would like to take this back to that clock and just put a light on how much development that we have made since the last 200,000 years that as a species we are on the planet Earth. First, we invented fire, then there was an invention of wheel, and then we have our civilizations that have formed and gone to the dust, and we have colonizations, and we have era of battles, wars. We have led world wars, and every day we are saying that we have to do something for our development. And the idea of development is a very linear idea. So generally the modern countries, or the parameter of measuring a country's development, is a GDP. And we always claim that, okay, this year we have trillions of dollars of GDP, and we are expected to have more GDP per year, and so on and so forth. So it means that the development model is itself a linear model. So it takes no account of the resources that are being used during this development, and that are creating a lot of waste. So we are just picking what is beneficial for us and discarding everything else. And this whole development idea or the systems is only for humans. We are not taking into account the other life on the planet. So Buddha, of course, has talked to us about the potential of human beings to realize that kind of a development. But that development is of mind. And that is why understanding Buddhist environmental ethics is really, really important. So Buddha has given two paths. One is the path of vision, and one is a path of transformation. So for the path of vision, we might get a glimpses of how things could be, or of our potential through meditation or spontaneous epiphany or other life-changing experiences. So the path of vision is very simple. So sometimes we have uh, some uh, some dreams, or we see things in our meditation, or when we are very silent, or when we are in a position where there are no thoughts, and suddenly we realizes something, and then that leads us to the a path of vision. And then there is a path of transformation. So Buddha has uh, Buddha has broken down this path into three aspects of transformation, because uh, he believes, or his teaching says, that the while traveling on the path of transformation, only liberation can be attained. So the path has been broken down into three categories, which is ethics, meditation, and wisdom, more commonly known as Shil, Samadhi, and Prajna. And so what are ethics? So the ethics are uh, the ways in which you live your life. The meditation or the samadhi is you practice for attaining enlightenment, and not just plain enlightenment, but it is with the wisdom or the prajna. So this path is actually giving us the basis of ethical behavior as a Buddhist that we should adopt. And in the path of vision, according to the Mahayana, there is a re-emphasis on the importance of compassion. So we always hear there is a distinction of Mahayana and a Theravada tradition of Buddhism. And Mahayana has put a lot of emphasis on cultivating the compassion with karuna. So uh, Mahayana traditions have a lot of bodhisattvas, and bodhisattvas are no other person that who is trying to attain enlightenment and wanting to be a Buddha. We have a very famous bodhisattva, which is one of my favorite, is Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara. So Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara is he has a very great story. It is said that he comes from Tibet, and as we all know that Tibet is the highest place on the planet Earth, and Avalokiteshvara means the one who is looking down. So he is looking down, and that can be understood both metaphorically and literally. So in a literal sense, he roamed around the land of Tibet, which is actually the highest place or the highest elevation than the normal sea level surface. So in a way, he can actually look down on all of us and see that we all are in pain or we all are suffering. And metaphorically, he has elevated himself through the practice of meditation to a position where he has become a bodhisattva, and he can then with a heightened mental awareness, he has reached to a position where he can look down to all the other mental states of other beings. And one day Avalokiteshvara just saw that everyone is in the pain, suffering, and they are in grief, and a lot of compassion just arose in his heart, and he took a vow that unless I make everybody liberated, I will not rest. And then he just sits into the samadhi and meditate for 1,000 years, and then open his eyes to see if that made that practice of meditation for 1,000 years has brought the suffering to an end. And he sees that still people are suffering, and the moment he sees that, his head explodes, and his body becomes his body is cut into 1,000 pieces. And then he asked the bodhisattva of wisdom, Bodhisattva Amitabha, to help him out. And Amitabha recites and calls Shakyamuni Gautama the great Buddha, and all of a sudden Avalokiteshvara has 11 heads and 1,000 arms, and on each of his palm there is one eye. So if you just take the symbolism out of this story, what it is saying is that if you are compassionate and the seed of compassion is very much alive in you, you are very prone to see the suffering in your surrounding and in your world. So as a Buddhist, when we idealize bodhisattvas and Buddha, we have to adapt to this quality of compassion. We have to think like we have 11 heads like Avalokiteshvara and 1,000 arms to support all the beings, to support all the people or nature or animals or other species with compassion. And that compassion just doesn't come as a sorrow or as a result of seeing suffering, but it comes through the wisdom. It comes through a dream or a vision, and that is why the path of vision is very, very important. The other side of Buddhist philosophy, like the Theravada or Hinayana tradition, it speaks about the conditionality or the principle of interdependence. So what it means is that everything is arising because of the conditionality. If you are creating conditions which are going to lead to sufferings, then there will be suffering. And if you are creating a condition where there will be a happiness, then there will be happiness and enlightenment and liberation. So in a way, Hinayana tradition talks a lot about interdependence. It talks about actions and its consequences. And it both the path are very important for understanding the reality or what the Buddhist scripture says uh, path that is leading to the reality or the satyata. Becoming more ethical in our behavior supports deeper meditation, which in turn supports greater insights. So Buddhist environmental ethics comes from the great list of phases in the path of transformation. And there is in Dhammapada, the first two verses, as I was saying, that the Hinayana tradition talks about the cycle of conditionality and interdependence. The first two verses in Dhammapada clearly states that what your mental state or what your actions will lead to, which is given here, like experiences are preceded by mind, led by mind, and produced by mind. If one speaks or acts with an impure mind, suffering follows, even as cartwheel follows the hoof of the ox drawing the cart. So Buddha uses this example, like, if you are behaving in a way with a lot of greed or unskillful feelings, or unskillful mind, the suffering will follow in the same way, like the cartwheel is following the oxes that is pulling the same cart. And if you are acting or speaking with the pure mind, with the skillful mind, the happiness will follow you the same way, like the shadow always follow you. And I guess this makes a great basis for Buddhist environmental ethics. So to apply this in the context of environmental protection, are we really acting with the skillful mind? Are we really acting with compassion, with wisdom? And we have to ask this question often to ourselves, and every time we have to assess our situation and our mindset, and we have to make this into a practice. And to make this into a practice, Buddha has given 5 precepts. And I wanted to take you all through all these 5 precepts. More or less everyone knows, who comes from a Buddhist family or who has been understanding or spending time in understanding the dharma, that the 5 precept forms the basic ethical actions or the action plan for Buddhist. So the first precepts talks about abstaining from taking life, and that is applicable for everything. So you don't hurt any sentient being, any plant or animal or any other species or any form of life, and you are making a conscious, skillful attempt for not taking a life. How can we put this into practice? Many of us are non-vegetarian people, so they like to eat non-vegetarian food. Sometimes it is not avoidable, and while eating that kind of food, are we aware or are we conscious about that animal which was killed and put on our plate? So first we have to ask ourselves that I'm not doing this consciously, or I'm not doing this willfully. I don't want to hurt this animal, or I'm not going to cut a tree near my house, or I'm not going to hurt any other life uh, with willfulness or with anger or with some unskillful feeling. And to avoid that, we also have a positive precept that we say that with the deeds of loving kindness I purify my body. So can I make any attempt uh, to act in a loving kindness way, and can I be more friendly with my family, with my friends, my relatives? Can I be more friendly and shower love to the animals, or can I take a can I take care of my garden? So this is how you you are abstaining from taking life, but you are also contributing towards life. And that's how the first precept is you can bring that into practice. The second precept is abstaining from taking anything that is not given. So uh, you don't steal, or you don't uh, take things forcefully. So in this precept, we can take an example of uh, okay, now I have to get some money for my living, and my condition is not really good. So do I go and rob someone and mm, put my actions into unskillful mindset, or shall I do something else? Shall I make an effort to earn my life or earn my wages more skillfully, or more with the wisdom? And that, and the positive precept for that, with open-handed generosity I purify my body. So if you have a lot of things to offer, may it be your time to talk to your family members or distant relatives or friends, or you have a generosity of giving money to some sensible cause, then you are making an effort, and that is your response to the to the principle of not taking willfully. Then there is a precept of abstaining from sexual misconduct. And this is not just about the sexual activity that one engages in. It is about the power structure in relationships. So say for example, if you are a man of the house and you are hurting your family members or your wife because of your anger or unskillful actions, you are actually not in compliance with the third precept, or you are making abuse of your power in relationships. You are not abstaining from the sexual misconduct. And for the to avoid that, you have to imbibe in yourself the third positive precept, that with stillness, simplicity, and contentment I purify my body. The fourth precept talks about abstaining from ill speech or false speech. Nowadays, everyone is on WhatsApp, and they see some news which is going viral, and without considering for a moment, everybody starts forwarding into the groups on WhatsApp, or in families or in workplaces. You talk about some people with not in a good way. So you either which is called as backlash, or saying things behind back. And that is not a really good state of mind, or that is not a really good that is not a skillful mindset. So to avoid that, we have the fourth positive precept, that with truthful communication I purify my speech. So you always have to make an attempt to be more truthful, to be more accurate, to be more insightful, and give a clear information when you are talking or when you are speaking to someone. The fifth precept is abstaining from taking intoxications. So of course there are n number of intoxications that are available in the world, and people are generally indulged in that. People are smoking, they are drinking alcohol, they are taking drugs, and they are also drunk with power. So the politicians that we see, the local MLA, or the local or the prime minister or the chief minister of your state, you see their behavior, and you can figure it out that this person is just really high on power. He just want to make use of the institutions, and not for the good of the community. And that is what Buddha is telling us, to be afraid of that kind of intoxications. And to avoid that, we have the fifth positive precept, that with mindfulness, clear and radiant, I purify my mind. So in all, if we have to understand the whole topic of climate change and climate emergency, and what must be the response from Buddhist, we have a clear action plan that has been given by Buddha himself. And I believe that I was able to convey a kind of a connection between Buddhist philosophy and the recent scientific fact of climate change. And I am very, very grateful for this opportunity. Thank you so much for listening patiently. And I please forgive me if I have said something which was not in terms of alignment to your thinking process, or I might have said some words which are not skillful. So I ask for forgiveness, and I'm very, very grateful for this opportunity. Thank you, and Jai Bhim.
Thank you, Kaustubh. That was very enlightening, I would say. We got to know a lot of things. I personally have not, thought of climate change in terms of the Buddhist philosophies and what can be done. How can we change our perspectives? What good could come out of it. But thank you. I hope everyone got that feeling. We got so much on the PowerPoints. The first slide actually blew my mind. That was very kind of revealing, and kind of a revelation, if you would like. And you never have thought about that kind of stuff, that we are so recent species, and look around us, what kind of damage we have done, all around us. We are failing to understand the meaning of life. We are failing to connect ourselves with the nature. We are just going there, and it's just we are day by day deteriorating the earth, Mother Nature, everything that is coming in our path of getting that top of the pyramid position on the species ladder. So yeah, that was very good. I appreciate and thank you so much for giving us so much of knowledge, and making us so much aware about what is going on and how it can be tackled, what kind of perspectives we need to bring to life, how we want to look at the climate change. And hopefully it will allow everyone to take some steps, baby steps, little things that we can do to make some difference from individual standpoint. So thank you so much. I now open the podium for any questions you might have for Kaustubh, any clarifications you might want to get from Kaustubh before he drops off. We might take some questions. So if you have anything, please put it on the chat, or just go ahead and unmute yourself and ask the question. Sanjay sir, you have a hand up, so okay. I'll start with you.
Okay, thank you, Sujata. Kaustubh, very, very nicely articulated and organized speech. It was very educative and very informative. Thanks for doing this, and I'm so glad that I get opportunity to listen to you. Thanks very much. I have two questions. So you said that the temperature has rise 1.5 degrees. So it is with reference to what temperature was 200,000 years when particular the human civilization or human development started, or what recent references we have for this particular increase. That is one thing. And then what is the you said it can go up to the 2 degrees. So what is the prediction when that particular we will reach 2 degrees, and what are the consequences we will be looking at, considering the video you have shown and what we are seeing happening in the Western USA and all these all over the USA. In fact, the Midwest also going through a lot of hurricanes and all this. So what do you think the consequences will be? And another questions, what are the things common person can do to avoid these, and how that behavior or actions we can correlate to the Buddha's teaching?
Okay, so thank you, sir. The first question is how we have predicted the 1.2 degree rise in the temperature at this time is based on the GHG emission and their potential to warm up the atmosphere. And the baseline has been taken at the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, so 1800s. So at the time of 1800s, what was the concentration of CO2 in the atmosphere, and there is a potential index of that amount of CO2 in the atmosphere, which will lead to certain rise in the temperature. So this 1.2 degree centigrade is the average global temperature, which has risen compared to the temperature it was before Industrial Revolution, that is 1800. So that answers your first question. The second question is, we are at 1.2 degrees now, and by 2030 it is expected to go at 1.5. So if we go at 1.5 degrees, the glacier at the poles will start melting, which will result into about 10 to 15 meters high rise in sea level. So that means all the bigger cities and all the countries who are surrounded by seas and water, they will be submerged. There is a great risk to all the bigger cities like New York, even Boston, and in India, Mumbai, and the overall coastline of India. Many island countries in Pacifics and in the Atlantic, they are bound to get submerged underwater if we reach to 1.5 degrees. For that, the UN has published 17 sustainability development goals or sustainable development goals, which you generally hear nowadays, which has become quite a jargon in news also, that okay, what your government is doing for SDGs and how can we meet the targets of SDGs. So SDGs are targeted for 2030, and lot of nations they are claiming that they will become carbon neutral, or at least they will mitigate their carbon emissions by 2030, and they want to be carbon neutral by 2050. So if we could become carbon neutral by 2050, we can avoid going towards 2 degrees centigrade. Imagine if we reach to 2 degrees centigrade rise in the temperature, every other system which I've mentioned in the second slide about the rainforest, about the borean forest, and the albedo effect. So the albedo effect is the effect where you know that white surfaces always reflect light back to the space. So all the glacier and the ice caps that we have around Earth, those are our protecting systems that reflects most of the light back into the space. At 2 degree temperature, all the glacier ice will melt, and we will have no surface to reflect that light. So we will be having incoming light and energy, which will increase more temperature, and all the carbon that has been stored under these ice caps, that will also get released into atmosphere, which is creating more CO2 in the atmosphere. So it's connected to one circle to another circle. If ice melts, CO2 is released. CO2 is increasing in the atmosphere. The more heat will be trapped. The more heat will be trapped, the more increase in the temperature, and that's how that cycle will go. And that is why it is very important to address the 2030 and 2050 timeline. By 2015, all the countries who signed the Paris Accord, the Paris Agreement, they have to be compliant with all the SDGs, and they have to meet the targets of SDGs. Coming to the second question, what a normal person can do for this. You can always get more and more information and make yourself aware of what exactly is the climate change and what are its impact. As I was saying, and also referring to the Kalama Sutta, like you have to get the scientific information which is regarded by the wise. And in this case, the scientific community, the scientist and the climatologist and the people from sustainability space, what they are saying is having more truth than any political agenda or any political or any other means of communication. There have been a lot of material for awareness on web. You can get it from your local governments also, and a a common man or a common person can take a action of being more mindful about it. In UK, there are certain groups who are doing protest against the institution and governments. The great Greta Thunberg is a great example, because she was just a student, about 8 to 10 years old, and she just sat outside her school protesting for the earth and its future, and her action had made a lot of turbulence and created a lot of awareness. So a normal person can also take a lot of actions. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to be in that power seats to make any change, but by behaving in an ethical way and by adapting to the 5 precepts, the action plan, we can always make a change. And that is how a Buddhist should respond to the climate change.
Correct. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Kaustubh. Thank you, Sanjay sir. Next hand, Pradeep have a hand raised. So go ahead, Pradeep, ask your question.
Hi, thank you, Sujata.
Mhm.
Hi, Kaustubh. It was a
Hello.
wonderful topic. I was really excited. I was really looking forward, and you have done a wonderful job. Really appreciate for all your hard work. You had wonderful slides covering all the points. I was thinking about this topic ever since I talked to you, and I was thinking in the analysis of suffering that the Buddhism talks about. So if you see the Buddhist life, especially like the great teachers like Buddha and Mahavira, they always recommended a minimalistic life, like uh, live a simple life, just live with what you need, rather than acquiring all this materialistic life. So they basically teach to get rid of materialistic life and live a very simple life. But if we see until industrial revolution, we had less jobs, kind of. People didn't had lot of source incomes, so they were actually living a minimalistic life. But after industrial revolution, there is a lot of jobs, lot of money is flowing. So it is also causing more desire. People are dreaming of a materialistic world. People are thinking that they want to be successful, they want to be big, they want to be rich. And at the same time, industrial revolution again brings innovation, but at the cost of what? At the cost of mother nature. So I was just throwing this ball and asking a question, like, what do you think about this, like this suffering of materialism? Is it also cause of climate change? Because that also leads to other problems. And uh, so is the suffering, is the climate change also because of this innovation that we are doing on the cost of mother nature? I would like to have some thoughts. If you can put some thoughts on that?
Yeah, sure. So you have to understand that this problem of climate change hasn't started by the industrial revolution. I mean, Mother Earth has gone through 5 extinction. Like, all the species on the planet Earth was wiped away, and they began again. So this has happened for the 5 times in the history of planet Earth. And we are close to the 6th extinction, and the 6th extinction would be caused by one species, that is Homo sapiens. First, we have to understand that all the other 5 extinctions happened before were because of the natural causes. And to come to the point of the materialism, that has not been around for some 500 years, or since the industrial revolution has begun. In the time of Buddha also, if somebody is having nice horse, the neighbor might feel jealous or unskillful. Or if someone is having a good kind of clothes or good shoes in their feet, a next person could also get unskillful feelings, and they might act on it. You know the story of Angulimala. He was just a bad person. He used to kill people for pleasure, and cut their fingers and wore it around his neck as a garland. So the unskillful nature of mind has not changed throughout the course of mankind. and Buddha talks about that. So if you want to make any change, you can lead a very peaceful, harmonious life, even with a lot of innovation, with a lot of materials. But what is your intention? What is your mind? The state of mind is very important. And in the Dhammapada, the first two verses are talking about that. If you are acting or speaking with the impure mind, the suffering will follow. So if you have a lot of possessions, lot of materialistic things, but your mind is not pure, it will bring you sorrow, or it will bring you more suffering. But even though if you don't have anything, and I guess materialism or minimalism just talk about that reduce your desires, and be more simple and live a life like a monk. It's not about the external appearances of a minimalistic lifestyle. It's about understanding your mind and how you can work on your mind. And to work on your mind, you have the five precepts, and you have to follow the precepts and purify your mind. Because in the precepts, also in the positive precepts, we are saying that by doing so and so, I purify my body. By doing so and so, I purify my speech. By doing so and so, I purify my mind. So it means that you have to make a conscious effort in purifying your mind and purifying your actions, and that will lead to your liberation and more happiness and more harmony. I believe I could have answered your question.
Yeah, I think we need to talk more on that.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Pradeep. Anyone else has any question? All right, I guess Kaustubh. Oh, there are.
Oh. Yeah.
Okay, Sachin, please go ahead and ask your question.
First of all, Jai Bhim to everybody. And thank you very much, Kaustubh ji. This topic has been really very intellectual, very enriching, and very beneficial for us as well. I just wanted to understand one thing. And just right now, just as you mentioned out, that the extensions, the five of them were natural ones, and the sixth one is being caused by the Homo sapien. I'm sure the usage of the plastic in our daily lives is one of those. Can you actually talk a little bit more about, or give us some information about its impacts and the predictions if we keep on continuously using those, and what are the ways that we can actually, as a common person as well, we can contribute to stop the impact of the plastics, basically, because I guess that's one of the major forces as well, which is impacting the environment, the cause of environment. Thank you.
It's a great question, Sachin, and thank you so much for asking this. So plastic pollution is one of the environmental impacts that we see. So if you just Google about plastic pollution, you will get plenty of information. But the impact is on the life in oceans. So you see all the videos and very bad photographs of turtles stuck with the plastic straws, or birds are getting a lot of plastic in their systems. A lot of animals, like domestic animals, are also getting impacted by this plastic. I once saw a video of a cow being cut, and they removed about 17 kgs of plastic from her stomach, which was a terrible sight to see. I mean, imagine your cattle, whom you love and whom you care every day, and which is in your house, in a farmer family setting, and a farmer has to bear the pain of cutting his cow and removing all the plastic because she cannot digest it. So of course it's a very big environmental impact. It's a impact on life, and you have to understand that you are kind of responsible for that cause. because somewhere around the line you could have got something into plastic bags. And nowadays all the systems are generating so much plastic. I mean, they are designed in a way that you have to use plastic. uh, there are studies like about 50 years ago nobody was using that much of plastic, but nowadays if you go to a supermarket you will find apples being wrapped around plastic or bananas being wrapped around plastic, which is
Right.
insane, which is like absolutely not necessary, because apples and fruits and bananas, they have their own covering, and they are very well protected by design of nature. But just human centric approach of making it clean or look nice, we are consuming plastic at a rate which is unprecedented. So if you want to tackle this kind of a problem, you have to begin at your home, and you have to constantly monitor your actions, and that comes from the samadhi, from the meditation, from the awareness that am I taking something which is not given. So uh, uh, the nature doesn't give you plastic, it is man-made material. So
Yeah.
if you are following the second precept of not taking which is not given, you would not come across much of a plastic. You would reduce your plastic consumption, because you will be aware of these things. Okay, this is not given to me by nature, and I have to be in sync with the nature. You will carry your own bags to the grocery store to bring your groceries. You will avoid going to the restaurants and bar and asking for the plastic straws. Or if you visit a coconut shop where you can drink coconut water, you wouldn't be asking for those plastic straws. You would be taking your recyclable straws. And this movement has begun already. There are many stores which are offering these kind of products and services, which are most deeply rooted into this philosophy of being more aware about your consumption pattern and consumption habits. So of course you can start that with your own self and your family, and I guess that's the better way to start. And of course you can make more awareness into your own communities and societies, and you can bring people together. You can make boards board level committees where you consciously reduce plastic consumption within your society or within your neighborhood. And that is kind of a community action that one can take for minimizing this environmental impact. Of course there are innovative ways, and as uh, Pradeep was also saying, does innovation help us to get past this problem? Of course innovation is the key for getting past this problem, and we have to make best of our imagination to come across to address this kind of problems in the society.
Yeah. Thank you very much, JB.
Thank you, Sachin. Thank you, Kaustubh. Something I would like to add on there. A few years back, I saw a video of people working in the recyclable factories where they recycle plastic, and there were workers working. And since that day, the situations that they work in is so horrible. I mean, the looks of it, because we throw our plastic without even rinsing, without washing. We just use milk carton, just then, put on the cap and just throw it away once we are done with it. We do the same with our yogurt and, all this stuff, all the bottles that we use. And the situations there in that factory, because of that, all the smell, right? Because if you want to recycle a plastic, you have to completely clean it in order to, get those recycling done. And they had to do it. And because of all this stale food, the smell, the workers were, explaining their trouble of the smell and what they go through in this recyclable, factories. So, and they had this very, simple request of just wash your bottles and wash the plastic that you're throwing into the recycle. Just recycling is not enough. Just throwing your trash, your plastic bags in the recyclable bins is not enough. But if you're at home and if you can wash, your recyclable, so it is more, it is better for those workers. Like, be compassionate to them, be kind to them, that there are some people who would be using this trash of yours and making something good out of it, and they have to like literally go for that, go with that trouble of bearing that smell and that unhygienic situation. So since that day onwards, I wash my trash, my plastic. Like, I felt so bad about it. I wash my trash, my milk cartons, my yogurt cartons, even my chips packets. I just wash it with like soap and then put it in trash can. And I always separate my trash with like a dry trash and the wet trash. And I do make sure that I put it in the plastic bin. So I think the little things, because that video was an awakening for me. Like, I never thought that, because just I'm throwing it because of my laziness to save my 30 seconds, I'm just throwing it like that. But someone else who's actually opening that bottle, that person has to go through such horrible smell of that, degenerated food and disposable things. So just a request, whenever you throw the trash, just wash it. The plastic bags, everything, especially when you're at home, when you can do it, just 30 seconds of yours can really help someone who's actually using the trash.
Right. Yeah. Thank you for sharing.
All right. The next question we have from Mrugal Rangari. Please, Mrugal, go ahead and ask your question.
Yeah. Hi. Firstly, Sujata, thank you. This is such a small thing, but now I realize that yes, just washing the plastic before throwing is such a small thing, but would be so helpful to them. So thanks for sharing. I'll definitely follow it. To Kaustubh, my question is, I wanted to know actually more about what do you like, what exactly do you work on a day-to-day basis? I mean, I was going through your profile on LinkedIn, so I'm kind of interested to know more about that, because I'm interested in sustainability. I'm a chemical engineer right now. I'm in oil and gas, and I want to move to sustainability. So I want to know more about your work.
Okay. I think it's better if we can take this discussion offline, and maybe you can connect with me. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. But just to give you an idea, I work with KPMG, which is one of the big 4 auditing firms. And what we do is we offer advisory and assurance services to our clients. So all the chemical companies or all the sector companies who are publishing their sustainability data and sustainability reports, we kind of help them to get it aligned with the mandatory requirements. And there is a lot of hand holding, but of course we can take this offline and discuss more.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Sujata, you are on mute.
Sorry. So yeah, anyone has any more questions? I don't see any raised hands. I guess we are also approaching. We have crossed our time already. So lastly, Kaustubh, that was so good. This topic has been, amazing. Your discussion, the understanding that you gave us, you made us more aware of the climate, and I'm sure all of us who are here are now a bit more aware about their surroundings, what they're doing, what they can do in terms of, just helping the climate recover. It was an amazing session. Thank you so much for joining us. Anyone else, if want to contact Kaustubh and know more, please feel free to do it. I guess Kaustubh will be more than happy to answer questions or get in touch if there is some ideas you want to throw up. But thank you everybody for joining, and we'll see you in the next session. Kaustubh, any last words you have? You can just go ahead.
No, I'm extremely grateful for this series, and I was going through a lot of talks which has happened earlier, and it was really enlightening for me also. I hope I could have bring some perspective of Buddha's teaching to this topic. And in fact, I'm studying more about this topic to be able to convey more in detail. And this was just a trial run for me. I think I have made so many mistakes, but of course I will improve on them, and maybe will able to share with a larger community also after. Yeah.
No, you are
Yeah, we can have
amazing,
a next
Kaustubh. You
session
are
then.
amazing. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
Kaustubh, thank you
Quick-
again for joining us. And if anybody has any question, please reach out to Boston Study Group. Go to our website, and there you will find our email ID. Contact us at bostonstudygroup.com, and we will delegate all your questions to Kaustubh. And if you want to connect with him, you can just write us, and we'll arrange everything for it. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for joining today, and thank you, Kaustubh, for a wonderful topic.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank
Hopefully,
you.
we will have
Bye,
another session
everyone.
in the future
Bye, Bim.
where you will be more refined. I mean, you are
Yeah.
really good, but I hope you will work more in this field, and we'll have more insight in future. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.